You speed home from Best Buy after dumping your entire check into the new Xbox console that just launched. And you can't wait to open that boy up and play all the new games on the horizon. You hit the power button to jump in. What the fuck? The Xbox 360 is easily one of the greatest consoles of all time. But one thing that's not great about it is this. The Red Ring of Death. Microsoft's most expensive mistake. One of the main contributors to childhood trauma. Right next to... The Red Ring of Death is one of the most notorious console hardware failures in gaming history, costing Microsoft over $1 billion, not even being able to turn a profit from the Xbox 360 until nearly 3 years after launch. This was one of the best eras for video games, and it was unfortunately during a historic hardware failure that bricked your console. But it turns out the story of the Red Ring of Death goes way deeper than you probably once thought. What even is the Red Ring of Death to begin with? This was a widespread dilemma at the beginning of the 360's launch that affected a huge chunk of the units worldwide. If you owned a 360 within the first years of launch, you've probably run into the Red Ring at least once before. To boil it down, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. A red ring on your Xbox indicating death. It's pretty much a visual error code that lets you know your console is undergoing hardware failure, changing the LEDs from green to this heart-dropping, anxiety-inducing red. Now, if you're anything like me, you'd probably start freaking out at the sight of this. How am I gonna play Halo with the boys? But if you look a little bit closely, the Red Ring of Death is actually trying to tell us something. Depending on what's wrong with your 360, the light quadrants will be displaying differently. 1 light means hardware failure, 2 means your console's overheating. Similar to 1, 3 is hardware failure just on a grand scale, having to do with more components. And all 4 of them lit up, that means your console's gonna explode. Nah, it just means your AV cable is not plugged in properly or it's messed up. When I was young, I never knew the difference between all the error codes. All I did know is that I couldn't play COD Zombies anymore. But what was even the cause of such a massive hardware failure in the first place? And why did it affect such a huge population of people during the beginning years of the Xbox 360's lifespan? First, we gotta go back and take a look at the OG Xbox and the behemoth of a console that was. As iconic as this guy is, we can all agree it's pretty bulky. Microsoft was looking to create their next console more efficiently and compactly than before. Their new approach to building the next Xbox was starting from the outside in, perfecting the design, and then working their way inside, figuring out how to pack it all in. Knowing their plan, Microsoft then got to work. Or should I be saying that about the 200 companies that supplied the parts for the manufacturing process? Wanting to be the first console released in the 7th generation, Microsoft was quick to develop the Xbox 360. Their goal was to release it right before the PS3 or even Nintendo to be the first up on the market. After settling on a design, the Xbox 360 was made up from around 1,700 parts all crammed inside this box, which was considerably smaller than their previous console. So much smaller that the power supply had to be outside of the Xbox itself. How did they get away with this? I mean, it does make for a pretty sick skate box. The Xbox 360 was then getting prepared to release. The months leading up to launches were all hell broke loose. Literally. Microsoft engineers began to notice that the 360 was basically deteriorating at this point. Cracking heat sinks, overheating graphics chips leading to warped motherboards, underperforming memory chips, problems with the DV drive, and so much more. So basically me if I ever tried building my own PC. A large chunk of the Xbox 360 consoles were pretty much all defective. Probably like at least 3 or 4 of them. Microsoft employees actually tried to push back the launch to ease the pressure, trying to give them enough time to iron out all the issues. But all the executives were still locked in, having their eyes on the prize. They were dead set on being the first to release in the next generation. In the final months leading up to a launch of any new console, it's always a crucial step of the process to thoroughly test the consoles. And this is something that Microsoft miserably failed at doing with the Xbox 360. In order to mass test consoles, companies usually use these big-ass machines. But instead of using the proper amount of them to efficiently test the consoles, Microsoft opted to save money instead and use significantly less of the machines as they should have. Look, I get it's expensive, y'all, but this is what it takes to make a fucking console. You gotta have a deep wallet. Actually, in this case, they do. It's literally Microsoft we're talking about here. They just wanted to save a couple dimes. On top of that, the machines didn't even test the consoles as in-depth as they should have, often leading to flaws being left unnoticed. list, ultimately leading to the Red Ring of Death. With time running out until the launch, more and more stores began reporting that they were not receiving large portions of their scheduled shipment of consoles. This caused worry and speculation that Microsoft didn't even have enough consoles to ship for the Xbox 360's release. Which is partly true, they have the consoles, they're just all stuck mangled in the factory waiting to be fixed. But all the negativity, it doesn't even matter. A new Xbox was about to release, and it was gonna be awesome. The day was finally here, November 22nd, 2005, the dawn of a new era. The Xbox 360 was released into the world following this huge event taking place in the Mojave Desert. They hosted it in a massive blimp hangar. You were presented with hundreds of gaming stations with all of the launch titles available for all of you and your buddies to play. And where would you play at? Beanbag chairs, hell yeah! The Xbox 360 was officially released, and gaming was taken to the next level. People lined up and stormed the store shelves, leaving them all empty, causing a mass shortage in consoles. Kinda similar to what we saw with the Xbox Series X and PS5 recently. Within the first month, Microsoft had shipped out about 1 million units, but it still wasn't enough to meet the demand. But if you were one of the fortunate ones that made it out alive with a brand new, fresh Xbox 360, you were more than lucky. You were the first to experience the biggest hardware failure in gaming history, the Red Ring of Death. This is just iconic, man. But back then, this was no joke. This was the end of the fucking world. People rapidly began reporting faulty consoles. Issues such as overheating and hardware failure were running rampant. It even got to the point where some people were able to give their consoles the Red Ring of Death on command. It's sometimes easy to look back at this and brush it under the rug, but at the time, it was a mystery if Xbox was even going to survive this. Microsoft began selling Xboxes at a loss, and the numbers in faulty consoles grew larger than ever imagined. Thousands and thousands of them freshly out of the box, red ringing. More and more hardware issues getting uncovered every single day. It was not looking good for Microsoft at the time, but more importantly me. I just spent my whole fucking check on this shit, and I can't even look at the dashboard. I still remember when my family ran into the Red Ring of Death for the first time. I'm not pointing any fingers, but someone in my house ended up turning the Xbox on its side while there was a game inside of it. You can already tell what happened next. No! Getting an Xbox 360 at the time that didn't have the Red Ring of Death was more exciting than winning the lottery. It was rough for a minute there, but you want to know what would make it a little bit better? More consoles on the shelves. Prank, that only dug them further down. More consoles meant more Red Ring of Deaths, and more Red Ring of Deaths meant more angry people on Reddit. And more angry people on Reddit means, well, more angry people on Reddit. By the end of March 2006, around 3 million Xbox 360s in total were released into the wild. But a shocking amount of them ended up back in Microsoft's possession at the end of the day. The defective consoles that were all sent back to Microsoft with the red rings numbered up to about 500,000. Microsoft engineers began to transition to a new motherboard. But before they could work on it, they needed to tackle the heaping pile of consoles that were stacking up. And more engineers ended up getting thrown on the project to help with the overloading amount of issues. It also didn't help that Microsoft had the team working on so many projects, from the DVD player to the 2 different models of the 360s they were developing to the Zune. Yeah, they took people off the 360 to work on the Zune. The engineers were hard at work with no bathroom breaks. In December of 2006, Microsoft did the least they could do and announced that they'd be repairing any console for free, even if the warranties were expired. I mean, it's only like a year later, but whatever. As time ticked into 2007, Microsoft stopped all production on the original line of 360 Xenon consoles, and they began lining up a new and improved Xbox 360 for release. This updated console would be home to the Zephyr motherboard, giving the 360 a bigger hard drive and HDMI for the first time. One of the main improvements being the GPU heatsink, which helped cool the console. As much of a step in the right direction this Xbox 360 console was, it didn't come near fixing the underlying issues plaguing the console. The Red Ring of Death was still raging on in homes, causing continued frustration in the community. A few months later, in the summer of 2007, Peter Moore from Microsoft spoke out, but this time with their free replacement program, offering a free console replacement warranty for up to 3 years from the initial purchase. My man, we're doing this again? It's a little late, pal. You know, at least it's there. With the year being 2007, the Wii and the PS3 have already been released. Why don't I just go play those instead of wasting all my money money on Xbox? The games. A large majority of the people that had a 360 stuck around to Xbox through this period, even though the Red Ring was still failing consoles around the world. Listen, I can't kill the Covenant or finish the fight on PlayStation, man. For the people that didn't experience the Red Ring in this era, they were having the time of their lives, playing some of the best games ever to release, and they were consistently rolling out. Man, what a time for gaming. And it only got better around the release of Halo 3, when the next model of the Xbox 360 started hitting the shelves. This console used the Falcon motherboard and consisted of more viable but less components than before, leading to a little bit more breathing room for the upgraded CPU cooler. This console helped reduce the amount of Red Ring cases just by partly solving the overheating issue. There turns out to be another version of the Falcon that is actually one of the most rare 360s available, the Opus model. The only way of obtaining one of these guys is if you experienced the Red Ring on your original Xenon console and sent it back to Microsoft for the extended warranty. And what they would do during this period was, instead of sending you an entirely new console, they would just scrap the parts out of the Falcon motherboard and repurpose them into the Xenon. And then they'd send it back to you, leaving you with this beefed up launch edition console with still no HDMI. What's even the point? Just upgrade. And with my luck, this shit would probably end up red ringing still. This was basically just Microsoft's attempt at saving a little bit of cash where they could, while they were actively pissing it on the fire they were trying to contain. The Red Ring of Death seemed to be an unsolvable problem, only just getting slowed down with every new model release. With Microsoft initiating the extended warranties and replacement consoles for free, that kind of softened the blow of the Red Ring. Hell yeah, I got my console replaced for free and I get to game. A lot of people seem to feel that way because in 2008, the Xbox 360 began to finally turn a profit after 2 straight years of a downward spiral. Things didn't seem to change for the Xbox 360 for the rest of the year, until the next model ended up releasing with the Jasper motherboard. This console further upgraded the Xbox internally, giving it spicy new ingredients to fight off the Red Ring, such as a new chipset and a power supply. This model is famously known for being the last fat Xbox 360 available, which indicates the official end of the Red Ring of Death. As time went on, the Red Ring of Death was becoming more and more uncommon. Microsoft seemed to snuff out all of the issues with the different model upgrades they released, and it only got better with time as Microsoft released the Slim and the E models. These both sported a new and improved motherboard that combined the CPU and GPU into a single chip, which enhanced the Xbox even more. But that actually wasn't the end of the Red Ring of Death, or should I say the Red Dot of Death. In these new consoles, they ended up removing the LED lights that caused the red rings to appear, and went for a more glowing dot look. At the end of the day, the sad but honest truth is that every single Xbox 360 is capable of hardware failure. It could be on an extreme level, like the earlier models with their laundry list of issues and defects, or on the newer models, it can be something as simple as swapping out a faulty hard drive. There isn't one Xbox 360 that is immune. It's rather which model is more prone to getting it than the others. Okay, think of it this way. As beautiful as they are, the early Xbox 360 models are like a wooden axe in Minecraft. They get the job done initially, and they may seem nice until they fail on you. But the later models are like a diamond axe. Not only do they get the job done, but they're efficient and reliable. Never mind. Microsoft was never able to find a solidified solution to the Red Ring of Death. Every attempt was just a band-aid and only fixed one problem, leaving a line of them untouched. The Red Ring of Death was the most expensive hardware issue in video game history. And to think that not even Microsoft was able to tame the issue is kind of unbelievable. The Red Ring of Death is like one of those game villains that keep coming back. It's a good thing that Microsoft at least was nice enough to offer free console replacements. I mean, to be fair, it is kind of all their fault for cutting all those corners in development and rushing to be the first console of the next generation. You know what, Microsoft? I'm glad you had to spend $1 billion to fix this shit. Yeah, I said it. With the Red Ring of Death being such a massive blow for the Xbox 360, it didn't take away from how great this era was. If anything, it gave it character. The 360 was doomed to fail from the start, but somehow, some way, it turned out to be the best generation of Xbox through its innovative online experience and its incredible library of games to play. As huge of an epidemic this was during the beginning years of the Xbox 360, that didn't stop gamers from enjoying the heaping load of awesome games that were being released. If it weren't for so many great games to play, I don't think that many people would have stuck around to see it out. This era is iconic for so many different reasons, and the Red Ring of Death is just the cherry on top. The Xbox 360 walked through hell and still remained an angel. Did you ever experience the Red Ring of Death on the Xbox 360? Tell me about your experience. Did you piss your pants like I did?